Want to tell you that I am super, super, super excited to be able to share a little bit about the journey that I've been on. Uh, that's a lifelong journey, but it's culminated in the last couple months in some really exciting things that I am hopeful will have a positive impact on the world. And the journey of each one of us is so critical to the world because every one of us is on a journey and we all impact one another's journey. Whether we know it or not, we impact one another and we impact people around us that many times we're not even aware of. And so, hopefully, as we share a little bit about our journeys with each other, we can inspire one another and we can encourage one another to stay on that path. And for me to begin, I want to actually take the book that's been just published, which is called Two Wings of Leadership: Balancing Feminine and Masculine Power in Life and Organizations. And I want to tell you who this book is dedicated to, first of all, because there will be stories related to the people that it's dedicated to. And so this book is lovingly dedicated to my exceptional mother, Jane Reynolds Howard, my wonderful mother-in-law, Jan Morby, my awesome sisters, Mary, Christina, Carolyn, Tracy, and Ria, four of whom are with us today. So I want to acknowledge their role in this book. My dear wife, Selma, and my children, Jasmine, Justice, and Juliet. And then countless women that I've known throughout my life who have inspired me and have taught me to embrace the two wings that are inside each of us as human beings. This book really talks about a concept of two wings, which comes from a metaphor in the Baha'i writings. Abdul Baha, the son of the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith, he talked about the world of humanity has two wings. One of them is woman and the other men. Not until both wings are equally developed can the bird fly. Should one wing remain weak, flight is impossible. And so, for me to be clear, the concept and the metaphor behind this book is not an original thought. It's a thought that was articulated over 100 years ago and that has influenced society and the development of society for many, many years. But one of the things my co-author, Monica Martinez Vargas, and I tried to do in the book is not just bring that metaphor in terms of thinking about men and women as these two wings of a bird, but also helping us internalize the thought that each of us as individual human beings, we have a masculine and a feminine side. And that balance within us as individuals is critical for the balance of society, for society to learn to value the feminine as much as it has valued in the past the masculine. And so we wanted to write this book from this vantage point so that it engages every single human being and doesn't become a battle of the sexes between men and women, because the balance that society needs is the balance between the masculine and feminine. And every man has a feminine side just like he has a masculine side, and every woman has a masculine side just like she has a feminine side. And so we wanted to approach the book from the standpoint of nurturing and encouraging the development of balanced human values and principles, which society in effect needs today. So Carolyn wanted me to tell stories more than anything. And I think I'm going to try to show you a few pictures that represent the trip that I was on this past month. Okay, this is the backdrop of where I was in the middle of August to launch this particular book. And I was actually at a conference, what's called an EBBF conference. EBBF stands for Ethical Business Building the Future. And it's a Baha'i inspired organization that's got a worldwide focus. And it's a community of practice of individuals of all backgrounds, of all stripes, uh, who have come together to try to put spiritual principles into practice on a practical level in terms of business, in terms of sustainability, in terms of equality, in terms of all sorts of things that contribute to making the world more sustainable, more just, more fair, more whole. And so for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been attending EBBF conferences, and I got a chance to go to two of them that were in Lisbon. 2 and 3 years ago, I went to Lisbon 2 years in a row. And then this past year, I went to an EBBF conference in Istanbul. And one of the great things that happens at these conferences is that people come together not with all the answers, but with a lot of questions, a lot of experience, a lot of practical know-how. And then we just consult for several days at a time on a bunch of topics, and we try to inspire one another to action, to trying new things. We share knowledge, we share experience, we share frustrations, but everybody comes to consult. And out of that, those consultations, all sorts of networking happens, all sorts of partnerships happen. And that is, in fact, how I met my co-author, Monica Martinez Vargas, who actually lives in Santiago de Chile. And she and I wound up meeting each other at one of the networking conferences that actually happened as a result of EBBF. There's another organization called soul.com, which is another similar community of practice that works very much in terms of helping to promote community and helping to build a better and more sustainable world. And so Monica and I actually met each other at a soul.com conference in Acuto, Italy. And we met on October 12th, 2024. So Monica and I have not known each other even an entire year, but we came across each other at this conference, and automatically we were drawn to each other. We shared tremendous life experiences because my corporate background in industry as an engineer and all these things. And then she's also an engineer, and she had all sorts of corporate experiences in the mining industry in Chile. And we started talking about the issue of equality and about what she experienced in the world and what I saw in the world. And it was like we knew we had to write this book. We had to write this book together. And right then and there, we developed a partnership. And when I came back to Brazil, I started looking for opportunities. How do we come together to facilitate work, to start working together so we can have a proximity to each other and figure out how to launch this book? And so we came together, and in Brazil at the end of November and December. And then Monica and I actually put together a vision of what we wanted to try to co-create together. And that vision got basically ratified in the beginning of January. And perhaps I should just read a little part of that vision, because it'll be a prelude to what we are in effect living out during the rest of the year. So the vision says, in 2025, we will stand as beacons of clarity and transformation in global leadership, inspiring leaders to embrace coherence, balance, ethics, and soul-driven purpose in their lives and organizations. As servants and champions of God, we will empower individuals to unlock their full potential, guiding them to shine their light boldly and confidently while fostering unity, trust, and the integration of feminine and masculine energies. Through our passion for facilitating high impact processes and programs, we will equip people with the tools to create meaningful, lasting impacts on their careers, communities, and personal lives. And I share that vision because the part of co-creation that came about as a result of that collective vision was just mind-blowing to me and to her. Uh, Nobody writes a book and nobody writes a good book in typically less than a year or 2 years or more. But we know that this book, the message behind this book was 40 years of life experience, 40 years of toil and struggle with this issue. And it just came together in this last 6 to 7 months. And so we were able to launch this book at the first EBBF conference in Santiago de Chile, which was held in August of this past year. This is a picture of the actual launch. This is the cover of the book and the actual launch. This is a picture of me and Monica at the launch. I'm going to show you guys a few of the pictures of the launch and then talk about how it went and get into a few stories. But in essence, there were 2 book launches during the 6-day trip. There were 2 book launches, one of them being at this conference, and then a second one being at a different venue, a different function. But at this conference, the head of EBBF, the guy in the middle, is named Daniel Truran, and he heads EBBF for Europe. And he is the most dynamic individual you're ever going to meet. He's got more energy than 5 Energizer bunnies. And he's an amazing person in terms of creating space for other people to shine their light. And he created a wonderful environment for Monica and I to talk about the book, to talk about the leadership aspects of the book, to talk about the issue of equality, which the book also champions. And he created great space for us to talk about the issue of human wholeness, which is the greater essence of the book, is the fact that it engages every single human being on the face of the planet to work toward greater balance, greater wholeness, greater integrity as an individual. So these are just a few pictures. I'm just, there were questions that Daniel would pose to Monica. There were questions that he would pose to me. And we got a chance to talk about the personal inspiration of the book. One of the first questions he asked was, what really inspired you, Charles, to write the book from your standpoint? And he asked Monica the same question. And when I had to answer that question, it was undoubtedly the tremendous feminine influence that I had growing up. My sisters were my primary caregivers, disciplinarians, entertainers, role models. They had to do it all, and they were always nurturing and helping my brother and I grow and develop. And so I grew up in a household that had this tremendous influence, feminine influence. And everybody who knows the women in my family knows that we have strong women in this family. Every one of them is a leader in their own right. Every one of them shines their light in amazing ways throughout the world. But this was the leadership that was in my family. And yet my brother and I grew up as athletes, we had very traditional upbringings. We were very competitive, very athletic. But we had this nurturing uh, upbringing at the same time. And when I got into college, I thought of myself as a liberated male. We grew up with the teaching of the equality of women and men, which is one of the principles in the Baha'i faith. And although it may not have been perfectly role modeled, my parents tried the best they could to keep that principle in front of us. And so when I went to college, I thought of myself as a liberated male, and I thought, man, it would be cool to take a women's studies class. And so I did. And I thought it would be an easy road because I believed in equality. And every single day that I went to this class, uh, the teacher shared with us statistics about the plight of women in society, in the world, and the culture of violence that existed in the world toward women and girls. And I remember that experience being unbelievably painful. Every single day that I went to class, I could not believe that that was real. My sense of reality, of what I thought was real, I believed in this equality, but the reality of the contingent world was that that was simply an ideal. And I remember coming to grips in that class with the fact that, man, if this is the new reality, if this is the contingent reality of the world we live in, I have to be a part of the solution in one way or another. And I thought about my sisters, I thought about my mother, I thought about my grandmother. And as the years went on, I was blessed with two daughters and a wife and a mother-in-law. And so the women in my life, they didn't go away, they just increased. And I realized more and more that every man has to be involved in the solution of creating a more just and equitable world. And so that was the initial motivation that I had as a 19-year-old in a university college course. But when I say to you that it took 40 years to birth this book, is because in these previous 40 years, I've always tried to be committed to the issue. But finally, when I met Monica, we connected on a vision that we wanted to bring this subject matter to the fore, to the organizational structures that we have worked with for many, many years as consultants or even inside the organizations. Because when I did enter the corporate world, I saw it completely devoid of much of the feminine leadership qualities that I grew up with. Most of the environments that I participated in were always male dominated, and they were dominated by not a healthy male balance, but oftentimes a toxic male balance. And so throughout the corporate experience that I had, I realized that there was a lot of stuff missing. And it took me a while to figure out what all the stuff that was missing was. But when Monica and I came together, it crystallized for us both. And we were able to write this book in record time. And I can't claim that it's going to be a bestseller or anything, but I do know and I do feel and I am confident that the metaphor and the message behind the book and the discourse that it will help to stimulate will help take this issue to another level. That is my prayer. That is my hope. And the confirmations that have come as a result of that launching have just been mind blowing. This was the launching event at the conference. There were at this conference there were about 90 people from Chilean society. Mostly there were a number of people, about 10 or so people from Europe, about another 10 or so people from Brazil, but mostly there were people from Chile, all sectors of Chilean business society and social services, et cetera, et cetera. So these are just a few pictures. Monica and I signing the book for some of the people who bought it. We launched it and we sold almost 50 copies of the book on that particular event, and got to sign autograph books for people. And then the conference ended, and because it was snowing, they had an unusual period where they had a bunch of snow. And because of the snow, this Baha'i house of worship that was in the background of the conference facility, uh, actually, it got closed down for an entire day. And this is a picture of my son who went on the trip with me. And so after the conference ended, my son and my daughter, I'll show you a picture of her in a minute, but my son and my daughter and I, we got to stay around this house of worship for 2 days. And for one of those days, none of the public could actually come to it because it's up sort of at the foothills of the mountains, the Andes Mountains. And so the streets were filled with ice and sleet, and the cars couldn't get up to the actual parking space. So we actually got to go into this building. It was unbelievable. There was a time where we were in this building, and one of the most incredible moments I've had in my life. It's a beautiful, beautiful architectural uh, building, and I actually got to go into it. At one point, there was only about 15 people, and I got to go into it with my daughter Jasmine, who is an unbelievably talented singer. And after about 2 hours of saying prayers and meditating, and I said prayers for everybody on the planet. Trust me, I said prayers for a better world, for every family member, for all the people that I come in contact with, and for the success of this book, that it have a positive impact on the world, that it help us improve the discourse that needs to happen for us to be able to achieve the balance that will help humanity soar to its highest heights. And so my intention during those prayers was just help make me a hollow reed from which the pith of self hath been blown, that I can be a clear channel through which God's love may flow unto others. And that was the essence of my prayers the entire time I was in there. And at one point in time, there were only three of us in there. It was Jasmine, myself, and one of the guides who was with us. And all of a sudden, my daughter Jasmine, who has this angelic voice, she begins to sing in the loudest voice, and the acoustics of the building was just mind blowing. It was a heavenly experience, one that I cannot relate to other people. I kept thinking to myself, oh my God, I cannot imagine what is happening. It was one of the most special moments I've ever experienced in my life because her voice took up the entire space. And I was just in a meditative trance already, just maintaining this clear and positive intention for the success of this book and the acceptance of it in society and the hope that it contribute positively to the discourse. And man, then all of a sudden, my daughter starts singing. And for those of you who don't know her music, you will find out her music, and then you will come back to this talk and you'll think, now I can just imagine, picture her voice in that particular space. But inside the building, this is a picture of me when we were inside that building. And there's a second story, and I was sitting in the second story of the building. in this particular location. This is me by myself. This is, if you look up at the ceiling, and it was just mind-blowing to experience what I experienced. It was one of those moments that you wish you could share with every single human being, but then you realize that it happened only to you. So this is now the third part of the trip. So the first part of the trip of the book launch was in the conference. The second part of the trip was meditative around this Baha'i house of worship. And then the third part of the trip was spending it with Monica's family. And there was a second book launch event, which was a much smaller event, but it actually had people, really highly influential ministers in Chilean society, people who are responsible for the advancement of women in the society, in commerce and labor. And so there were some really, really high powered people at this second book launching event. And we got interviewed by this young man, Andreas. He's from Germany, one of the people that I met through EBBF. And he actually came all the way from Portugal for the conference. And again, Andreas created a stage where Monica and I were being asked similar questions about what motivated the book. And we got a chance to answer those questions in a small circular group. And then we got these ministers to start talking about what impact they saw for the book having in the society. And the encouragement that they gave us was phenomenal. And the networking that may result from that will also open a whole bunch of doors. Then these are just some other pictures of the event and the group. And so that basically are the series of pictures that I wanted to share. And I don't want to over talk, overextend. I just want to say that more than anything, I am hopeful, I am grateful just to be able to play a small part in something that has been very close to my heart for many, many years. And pay homage to my mother, my mother-in-law, my sisters, and all the tremendous women throughout history who have not yet been recognized for all that they contribute to society, to the world, to their families. So I am definitely in a hopeful state. I believe that it's a new chapter in my life that is beginning. I'm excited every single day that I wake up about what's going to unfold in this chapter. And I hope that each of you will find a part in this new chapter of my life and being a participant, because this concept of championing the two wings that are inside of each of us, as well as working on the larger metaphor between the balance between women and men in society, is something that requires all of our help and all of our assistance. Carolyn, do I stop here? Do we keep going? Do we open up for questions, comments? Where should we go?
I said I can listen to you till tomorrow because I love listening to you. But you said, how can people contribute to the book? I remember you showed me something, there's some QR code or something like that, and something you sent out where people can join in with you and do something. I don't know what.
Okay. So there is a book landing page, and it's a link that I've sent out to you, and maybe you can send it out to anybody who's interested. And this book landing page, basically what it does is it It has opportunities for people to engage with the community. Monica and I set up a community of people who want to explore this topic and take it to the next level, be able to dialogue and consult about it, share their own experiences. And so this is a community on LinkedIn that people can just join and be notified. Monica and I plan to actually have a monthly sort of uh, monthly chat session, little podcast that we'll be sharing different elements of the book throughout the next year. But we'll also be willing to dialogue with anybody on the contents. People can also find out how to get the book if they want to get a copy of it. We just recently, between September 4th and the 7th, we had a free download for about 3 days on Amazon. And so I know Carolyn sent that out to a bunch of people, and a bunch of people actually did download the book. We had a great experience with that download because over 506 people downloaded the book in about a 2.5, 3 day period. And that's not an easy process because the Kindle platform was complicated for people, and so some of the younger people who went for the downloads, they figured it out, but some of the older folks like myself and others uh, had struggled with the download. But still, the fact that there were 506 downloads, our publisher gave us the feedback that it is significant for a book that did not have a presence on Amazon to actually have that many downloads across 15 or 16 different countries. So that boded well for the future of the book on the platform. And so anyway, I don't want to make this entirely about me or Monica. I want to open some space for anybody who wants to share a comment, any comment, question, whatever you want to share. We can take this in whatever direction you guys want.